We got breaking news. Kash Patel's FBI reveals a 2017 plan to shut down the Clinton probe.
Keeping you informed and engaged, now more than ever. This is Sekulow. We want to hear from you. Share and post your comments or call 1-800-684-3110. And now your host, Logan Sekulow.
Like John Taffer at a restaurant when he finds cockroaches, Will, you gotta shut it down. This is Logan Sekulow. I'm here with Will Haynes. We got Rick Rennell joining us a little bit later in CC High. Of course, I'm talking about another Just the News bombshell article. Our friend John Solomon was on the show yesterday. As they have the FBI, I feel like they're just like, you know what? You want to see some emails, man? You want to see some crazy stuff we found? Like, look what we found from 2017. This is an email that came, or a message that we got with a full-on timeline from some pretty high-level people. I don't know, like the Deputy Attorney General Sally Yates saying in 2017, shut it down, quoted specifically on the probe against the Clintons and the Clinton Foundation in a very opportunistic time.
That's right. So this is a separate investigation that the FBI was looking into doing into the Clinton Foundation, as well as her time as Secretary of State. The allegations that were surrounding that, kind of in the public sphere, where people were talking about some of the interesting people that were high donors to the Clinton Foundation, receiving meetings or maybe other things, maybe an appointment, things of that nature, while she was Secretary of State. And there was even a book about it, Clinton Cash.
Yeah.
And so this would have been during the Obama administration, while she was Secretary of State, what they would have been looking into.
But it was actually during, I guess, the Trump administration.
Well, so it began, the FBI started looking into this actually in 2015.
Gotcha.
So the tail end of the Obama administration is when they started looking at this. They started working towards it. And the detail here is remarkable. This is a timeline that was written by a DOJ attorney assigned to the FBI under James Comey. And there's a lot of redactions of individual names. Mainly, it appears to be U.S. attorneys, people that work in those offices or in the FBI field offices. But main names you see are people like Andrew McCabe, who is the Deputy Director of the FBI, the Deputy Attorney General, Sally Yates. These are names that we knew very well.
The starting lineup.
And they were, as it appears, and we'll get into how in the next segment, but they were putting up roadblocks at every corner to the field workers that really wanted. These FBI agents had information, they had done preliminary investigations, and they were being told, as Logan said, to shut down this investigation into alleged corruption at the Clinton Foundation and from former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, our friends at Just the News, again, John Solomon, on a different topic, was on yesterday. He kind of hinted to us, keep refreshing the page, something may be coming. This gets released. I have to say, if you want in-depth coverage, Just the News is where you go. I think we do a good job here of breaking it all down for you. But I usually have, I like to listen to a lot of these stories when I'm driving into the studio. I want to make sure I'm fresh on what's going on. And usually if it's Fox News articles, about 5 minutes, 4 minutes listen. This one I clicked on, it was a 23-minute listen. I had to double speed this to just take it all in, and I still think there's a lot that I am still learning from this. That's how deep dive that team at Just the News gets. I want to hear from you. Phone lines are open. I know this probably isn't that shocking because, again, it feels like we have days upon days if they're revealing this, but at least we're finding out. At least we're finding out that suspicions were true. If you felt like things were not happening the way they should have been happening, you were right, and now you have Kash Patel and the FBI saying, yeah, and here's the proof. Phone lines are open for you at 1-800-684-3110. Once again, 1-800-684-3110. As we are now, it's August 14th. We are nearly right at the halfway mark of our 35 years of Victory Drive. That means all donations are doubled. Great time to give to us right now. Look, you've seen this time after time this week. And the ACLJ is there always on the front lines. We've been there with you for the last 35 years. And without your generosity, none of the efforts we have, whether it's the Supreme Court of the United States, whether we're fighting to defund Planned Parenthood, we're going to talk a little bit more about that and some of the abortion funding issues that are coming very soon. We're going to have CC Heil joining us, one of our senior attorneys here at the ACLJ, to break all of that down, because I know you need to know, beyond a show, what else do you all do? You do so much incredible work, not to diminish our show. I think our show is one of the best parts of what we do. I'm just going to say, maybe that's selfish. But you know what? Support us, support the show, support the legal work, aclj.org. We'll be right back with your phone calls and more.
This is about as clear evidence you could find of intent by the campaign to collude with the Russians. He may be the first president in quite some time to face the real prospect of jail time.
The Russians offered help. The campaign accepted help.
A whistleblower who is a Democrat, a career intelligence officer who worked for Democrats on the House Intel Committee for more than a decade, repeatedly warned the FBI in 2017 that then Rep. Adam Schiff had approved leaking classified information to smear then President Donald Trump.
Again with John Solomon, editor-in-chief, founder, chief investigator, reporter, justthenews.com, revealing tonight that an FBI investigation uncovered the fact that Mr. Higher Honor himself, James Comey, routinely leaked classified information to the New York Times through an intermediary, a friend on the faculty at Columbia Law School. The sheer amount of leaking appears to be political.
Totally phony, created by Adam Schiff, Shifty Schiff, and Hillary Clinton and the whole group of them. And it made it very dangerous for our country because I was unable to really deal with Russia.
The Clintons, the things they have gotten away with for decades. Yeah. We don't know where the bottom of it is.
Deleting thousands of emails with bleach, then asking, with a cloth or something like that.
With the Clinton Foundation.
You're going to see a protection racket around the Clinton Foundation, and you're going to be able to see who in government was providing that protection.
I just want to make sure I'm hearing this correct, that we knew that there was some nefarious stuff, some shady things surrounding the Clinton Foundation. But according to what you believe is about to happen, we are going to find out that certain individuals called off the dogs and said, do not look into this any further?
Yeah, I think you'll see words to the effect of shut it down. We're not going there, things like that.
Welcome back to Sekulow. Phone lines are open for you at 1-800-684-3110. We saw a large spike in viewers just over the last segment break, so I want to make sure we restate what's going on, and we can move on and take some of your calls. And again, we got Cece Heil joining us, senior attorney here at the ACLJ, and later on, Rick Grinnell. You know Rick as someone who's been a member of our team for a very long time and always has some really interesting points of view. He's also the head of the Kennedy Center, which was shaking some things up yesterday. We're going to talk about that. But, Will, let's go back to the main topic. This, of course, is another FBI expose, if you will, showing that a lot of what we thought was true, that there were people on the inside saying, hey, we need to be investigating what's going on with the Clinton Foundation, what's going on with Hillary Clinton and all these people. And, of course, there are people above them, some of those hot, top names, like I said, the starting lineup, whether that's a Sally Yates or any of these others, really instructing in not in some sort of vague way, to legitimately shut down investigations that were going on.
So here's why this is important as well, because a lot of people are like, okay, we knew that there was alleged corruption of the Clinton Foundation and Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton and the lot, but we need to see how our government handled that. And when it appears that our government was putting their thumb on the scale in an election year and even before an election year to their preferred people, their insiders, that needs to come out so that there can be accountability, so it can't happen again, so reform can happen at these agencies. And here's what we're seeing in this. This is a timeline that was documented by a DOJ attorney assigned to the FBI under James Comey. And what we find out is that there were 3 field offices, New York, Washington, and Little Rock, that all were looking into the allegations of corruption at the Clinton Foundation and a cash for access kind of scheme that was alleged there. And New York and Washington had preliminary investigations. Little Rock had a full field investigation. So they start looking into this. They start coordinating with the U.S. Attorney's Office, and especially in Little Rock. And they said, I think there's a good angle on this. We need to make sure we run it up the chain to DOJ. We start to find out that a lot of activity happens where the DOJ and the FBI are all having meetings, they're having video calls, one of which was held by Deputy Director Andrew McCabe in February of 2016. And so this was their first stuff that started was in August or July of 2015. So before we were really even in the election cycle,
so in the Obama
they're looking
era,
into this.
They're starting to look into this.
That's right.
So maybe this is when the FBI was still kind of doing their job.
So at least the field agents.
Yeah.
Then it starts going up. Deputy Director McCabe led this meeting. It was a secure video teleconference call with a lot of individuals from the Criminal Enforcement Division, the Washington field office, New York field office, and he said that, we need to make sure there are no overt investigative steps to be taken on the Clinton Foundation investigation without his approval. So already out of Washington, the deputy director is saying, you can't do anything until I give you approval of a step of an investigation. This is now 7 months after they've already started working on this. It continues on. Then it gets up to the Deputy Attorney General in March of that year, about a month later. She orders the Eastern District of Arkansas U.S. Attorney's Office shut it down. They don't want to see this happening.
Some people understand also maybe they don't. The Arkansas office specifically because that's where the foundation was.
Well, exactly. Well, that's where the Clintons are from. They have a
yeah.
lot of ties there. Now, most of the operations were out of New York, which is why New York field office was involved. But Little Rock, New York, and Washington field offices all independently were looking into this.
Not working together.
That's right.
Sense, at least as far as we know.
So then we learned she tells them to shut it down. They didn't really. The FBI agents, because we're still looking at, we're going over stuff. Then they started telling them, listen, you have no overt investigative action can take place until authorized by the deputy director. Then there were people that were pushing back, saying, no, we're frustrated. Like, we've got stuff here. There was an allegation. You're just taking it from that one book. The field office says, no, we have confidential human sources. We have our own investigative stuff. Yes, we did use some open source things when we looked at that, but we've done work on this. Still told to shut it down.
Human sources. What about non-human sources?
I can't speak to that, Logan. I don't know.
Why did they have to specify we have human sources?
Well, unless it was signals intelligence, things of that nature.
Yeah.
Okay, fair.
Yeah,
fair.
I think signals intelligence is right. That means something different.
It
in my
kept
world.
going, though, throughout that entire year.
Jeez, how long is this timeline, Will?
It was like 6 pages, Logan. You would never read it. That's why I didn't give you the raw document. It keeps going, though, so much so that even though the deputy director of the FBI, Andrew McCabe, said, I have to approve every process.
Like, we all went to Toy Story 4.
We get to November 1st, days before the election.
Okay.
There's still frustration within the FBI and in the Eastern District of Arkansas. 2016, just a few days before the presidential election.
The big one.
Andrew McCabe sends an email officially recusing himself from the Clinton Foundation investigation. So he oversaw it
during the
and
Comey times
stonewalled it
yeah.
the entire time, not letting people go forward, say, I have to micromanage every step of this investigation, and a few days before the election, recuses himself from it. So almost to give cover of like, I didn't play any part in this. The timeline speaks differently. After the election, the individuals are still wanting to move forward. They're like, we have things here we need to investigate. This is a public corruption case potentially that should be worked. It is like all other public corruption cases, except for it was more sensitive. And then the DOJ told them, you know what? We want to move on right now. We're going to move on from this and turn the chapter. So the entire time, the Clintons, from 2015, mid-year, through the election, were protected by individuals at the DOJ and the FBI. At the same time, while they were saying, we don't want to get into this, that FBI agents had been working on for such a long time, these very same people, Sally Yates, Andrew McCabe, were at the forefront of breaking all the rules, breaking all the norms, going after President Trump. James Comey sent spies into the White House. He sent people because he could to go interview people of the new administration. But yet, something that field offices, the line agents of the FBI wanted to look at to do their job, were told to stand down by Sally Yates. That's incredible. When you start to see this on paper, and no, we weren't just making it up in our heads of how deep this went. It's all right there. There was a DOJ attorney that documented this timeline. And Logan, that's why we have to talk about it. That's why we have to bring this up, because it can never happen again.
I want to take a quick phone call that's related to this because, of course, a lot of people are saying never happens again. That's great, but what about now? Let's go to Margie, who's calling on line 1 in Massachusetts. Margie, you're on the air.
Hey, hi. Thanks for taking my call. Yes, that's exactly my question. We hear so much of this corruption, things that are going on that are just mind-boggling. Yet we sit back and we're saying, well, when is anybody really going to be brought to justice? When is anyone going to be put on trial now that they've found these things? There's so much, deniability out there. And then you come up with things like this that you found that they've uncovered, and so when does it start rolling? What do you think is going to happen?
Well, I mean, getting to what could happen, I think there's a lot of options on the table. Here's what I think, and look, I felt this way too. When all this started coming out, it started feeling very much like 2016, where you're going to have a lot of words, you're going to have a lot of things that go after Hillary Clinton, then nothing's going to happen. The difference is you have a very different FBI. You have a very different administration right now. They are releasing documents that could have been released for decades at this point now, or almost a decade. Almost a decade, they could have released these documents showing this. So at least you have an administration, you have Kash Patel in that office who is at least willing to take this first step of saying, okay, we're going to show you the evidence. Now, let's see where we can go with that.
Well, and when you think about what a chaotic time it was at the beginning of that first administration of President Trump, and how they effectively were able to hamstring his entire administration with the Mueller probe, with an impeachment, they were able to hide the ball over here by forcing these hoaxes on the administration to hamper any sort of these type of things to move forward. And then 2020 happens, and Joe Biden is able to fill the Department of Justice with his loyalists that were certainly not going to do that. So you have to consider what happened during the first time frame. It's not like all of a sudden the DOJ was ripe for reform and the FBI was ripe for reform. It was a fraught time. Now that people like Kash Patel and Pam Bondi are in there, that's why, Margie, we see there is a strike force. There are grand jury investigations. They are doing what should have happened a long time ago.
It's absolutely easy to feel down because we've become so accustomed to this being the case. And you're right, Margie, where all the data, all the facts are given to us and nothing happens. But you know what? I'm hopeful that it is a new day and new things can happen. So, Margie, thanks for calling in. When we get back, we're going to be joined by Cece Howe. We're going to talk to you a little bit about some of the ACLJ work in terms of abortion funding that's going on and what we are doing to help in that front and make sure it is defunded, hopefully, permanently. With that, we'll have her on. Later on, Rick Rennell's going to be joining us. And, of course, we want to take more of your calls at 1-800-684-3110. We'll get back to this topic as well a little bit later. Be right back. We found some individual places where we know pro-life pregnancy resource centers have been under attack for the last, we would say the last couple of years. But, Cece, we're learning a lot more. Of course, we know that they have always been a target for a lot of pro-choice groups, but it's becoming clearer and clearer as time progresses.
The United States Supreme Court has agreed to hear a case of first-choice women's resource centers. And that is, again, a case where liberal attorney general in New Jersey has gone after pregnancy resource centers, and they always target them for what they say deceptive practices. And so we will be filing an amicus brief. We filed at the cert stage in this case, and the Supreme Court has agreed to take it. And now we will be filing an amicus brief on August 28th, I believe, is the due date for our amicus brief. In this case, again, supporting the pregnancy resource centers and going after New Jersey for viewpoint discrimination. And this is not anything that is new. In 2010, we had a case in New York with Evergreen, and then there were cases in California that we were involved in. NARAL, which was the abortion lobby arm, they put out a choice action kit.
Hold that up for people to see.
I will.
Yeah.
So if you're watching, NARAL had a choice action kit that they put out in 2000, so 25 years ago. And it is a step-by-step guide of unmasking fake clinics, and it goes step by step of how
they call fake clinics. Yes,
everything's fake clinics, and they target them of, yes, they're deceptive practices, and they deceive women, and they deceive them by giving them a choice. That's what it is. This is a plan and a playbook that they've had for 25 years, and the ACLJ has been fighting against it for 35 years. So we will continue to do so.
Welcome back to Sekulow. I always make sure that even when we're on all these top topics, and a lot of you are watching right now, and I know you're going to want to talk about the FBI and their conversations saying to shut down the probes into the Clinton Foundation and things of that nature. We're going to get back to that, so don't go anywhere. But what's also important is we share about the work of the ACLJ, because we are right now in our 35 years of victory drive. We are talking about the victories we had and the victories we will have going forward. The ACLJ fights for life, but also fights to win. I think that's a little bit different. I know you may say, well, of course, everyone does. That's not necessarily true. There are a lot of people out there that are just happy to rake in fundraising, take any case possible, knowing they probably are going to lose, not fighting their best fight, because maybe it's better for them. Maybe it's better for them to lose financially. We don't do that here. Some topics we've essentially put ourselves out of business on because of how successful we've been here at the ACLJ. And that's okay, because that's the point. We are joined now by CeCe Heil, senior attorney here at the ACLJ. CeCe, we got some updates on what we were doing. We're filing briefs. We're getting really critically involved in a lot of what's going on for standing for life and against the federal funding of abortion and state funding of abortion.
Yeah, and I think abortion is one we'd love to
it'd be great to move on
out of, lose any more work on abortion. We'd love to win this once and for all. So we are once again talking about that case in Massachusetts where Planned Parenthood went after the federal government for their funding freeze, which, of course, Congress can do. They have the power of the purse. They stopped funding to Planned Parenthoods, those that provided abortion and got over $800,000 reimbursed for Medicaid. That is absolutely in control of Congress. In the control of Congress, they can do that. But Planned Parenthood filed in Massachusetts again. They look for places where they know that they will have liberal judges that will follow them. Like we talked about this case, this judge, in her opinion in the district court, literally it was like a Planned Parenthood advertisement. So she enjoined the spending freeze that came out of the budget. She enjoined that. So that means she is forcing the federal government, our taxpayer funds, to be paid to Planned Parenthood. And like we said, we're going to follow this case as far as it goes. And the government has filed their appeal with the First Circuit, and they just filed their a motion to stay that injunction. And that means they filed a motion with the appellate court to stop the injunction of the lower court, meaning that that funding freeze, no funds going to Planned Parenthood, remains in effect. And so we just this morning filed our amicus brief in support of the government's motion to stay. And right now we are the only amicus brief that has been filed in support of this. Hopefully there will be more, but we have filed. We're on this. We tell everybody, we're ready and set to go. And as soon as our due date came, we filed it this morning first thing.
That's right, CeCe. And even with this, to show even the work of our attorneys, how closely they monitored this. Originally, they thought that our filing was going to be Friday. So a full extra day to write a brief that isn't short and has to be correct and have the law and the facts as we present to the court correct. Yep. And find out 2 days ago, actually, your deadline is Thursday at noon, and our team filed it before that deadline this morning. We're able to get that ready so that we can be on the record, so we can support the administration's position that this is an issue that can be handled by Congress, that they can pass a law, the president can sign that into law, yes. And they don't have this constitutional right that they're trying to claim to the funding and reimbursement from Medicaid. And so our attorneys are diligent, hardworking. They know the facts. They know the law.
Right.
And that's why at each stage of this, we're going to be there.
Right.
We're going to be there filing these briefs. Even if we're the only one outside of the parties to the case, we will be there to fight for the absolute right that Congress has to defund Planned Parenthood.
Right. And I'll just get into, our brief says that there's no constitutional right to subsidies for abortion providers. The Supreme Court has said that over and over and over, that the government can value life over abortion. It can value childbearing over abortion. The Supreme Court has said that. Congress has the power of the purse. We make that clear. They talk about a bill of attainder, which is a bill that actually is punishment, and it's only been used 5 times, and it was for death, imprisonment, or banishment. So the fact that Planned Parenthood is simply not getting funding from the federal government, that in no way equals punishment. And then we point out that if a court tries to control the power of the purse, that actually interferes with the separation of powers. So it's a very important amicus brief, and it's important right now because we need to make sure that this injunction is stayed, that these funds stop going to Planned Parenthood, because as we've talked about before, the stop of funding only applies to 1 year right now, 1 year. So if this injunction stays in place while this appeal is going forward, that means that it's going to time out this 1 year restriction of funds. So right now, we need to make sure that that injunction there's a stay on it, that the funding can be withheld and Congress can do what they voted to do, what the taxpayers wanted them to do, defund Planned Parenthood. That is a law in place, and it needs to be honored.
And I think, Cece, even for the audience, that maybe this isn't their issue. Maybe they don't follow the funding of Planned Parenthood or even care about that. I mean, we very much do here at the ACLJ. But even this entire concept in the law that Planned Parenthood is trying to say, once we were receiving this funding, effectively, Congress can't take it away forever. That the dangerous precedent that could set with fiscal conservatives that want to shrink the size of government, that want to get the bureaucracy out of so many things, that want to see these handouts to special interest groups or non-government organizations, which are effectively quasi-government organizations, that this could set precedent where anytime Congress tries to stop wasteful spending, yes, in their opinion, if the plaintiff comes forward and tries to say, you can't take my money away,
right, and
they start pointing to this, like, this has much broader implications, right, in my opinion, than just this specific fight.
There's no entitlement to federal funding, and it's not just about, this argument is not just about taking funding away that was there. It's even like taking funding away, just deciding not to fund something. That's how dangerous it can be. It's like, well, federal government, I believe you should fund me, and you've decided that you're not going to, but I have an entitlement to federal funding. So yes, this goes way beyond just Planned Parenthood and abortion. It's definitely a separation of powers issue, and it's definitely an issue that Congress has the power of the purse, and they don't have to be forced to support or not support anything.
Absolutely. I want to say thank you to those who stuck around. I'm watching. Very few people left during this part of the conversation. I know this diverts the show. It's not the topic you clicked on. Okay, a lot of you clicked on something completely different. But we want to make sure you're always informed on what we're doing here at the ACLJ and also what's happening just around the world and how you can get involved directly. And that is why we're celebrating 35 years of victory, and that's why we need your help to go on for another 35 years. Join us today. Go to aclj.org as we have a second half hour of the show coming up. But I know some of you got to leave at the half hour. But if you don't, stick around. We got a great back half coming, including Rick Grinnell's going to be joining us. But phone lines are open for you, 1-800-684-3110. If you want to talk about this, you want to talk about our fight for life, if you want to talk about specifically the Clinton Foundation probe, any of those topics, they're on the table today. So give us a call at 1-800-684-3110. If you don't get us, though, on your local station or you're listening to this later, know you can watch the full hour live. That is from 12 to 1 p.m. Eastern time. And, of course, you can catch it later on YouTube, Rumble, however you get your podcasts. And, of course, at aclj.org. Give today and have your donation doubled. We'll be back in less than a minute.
We've witnessed monumental legal victories, from defending the 14th Amendment and protecting our sacred American right to vote, the overturning of Roe v. Wade, and standing up for the religious liberty of our kids and seniors. But even with the many historic wins we've achieved, the attacks on our constitutionally protected rights persist. Countless unborn babies remain in jeopardy, and across the globe, innocent Christians are being targeted and killed. This fight isn't just the ACLJ's. It belongs to every American who wants to preserve the values and beliefs on which this nation was founded. None of the victories we've won would have been possible without the unwavering support of ACLJ members and ACLJ champions. It's been an honor to fight for you all these years, and we're prepared to fight for the next 35 years if necessary. Together, we can protect the Constitution and defend this great nation for our children and for generations of children to come.
Keeping you informed and engaged, now more than ever. This is Sekulow. And now your host, Logan Sekulow.
Welcome back to Sekulow. We did want to reset a little bit. Thank you again for all you who stayed and listened to about our fight for life. I think it's very important if you're listening to the first half hour. Now we're in the second half hour. Will, we are back at it. We want to talk about what's going on. Rick Rennell, by the way, is going to be joining us next. And Rick, I'm sure, is going to have a lot to say about this, as well as he has some information about Adam Schiff. And, of course, we're going to talk about the Kennedy Center, which had a big announcement yesterday with President Trump doing a full-blown press conference, as President Trump will host this year's Kennedy Center honors, which should be a fun time. We're going to discuss that coming up in the next segment. But before we do that, a lot of people may be clicking on, seeing the headline, seeing the FBI told the Clinton told to stop and shut it down to the probes against the Clintons and the Clinton Foundation. Of course, some of these date back 2015, 2016, with this direct message coming in 2017. This is what happens, Will, when you get an FBI that at least is doing their job and wanting to at least show the American people what's been going on the last decade.
This is a 6-page timeline. There's a lot of redactions of names that are things like members of the U.S. Attorney's Office or maybe field agents that aren't publicly known or out there. But some of the key names that we do see are people like Sally Yates and Andrew McCabe. And what we know is that this investigation, at least from the Washington field office, started they started looking into the Clinton Foundation around July or August of 2015. That is well before the election cycle really started for the 2016 election. And remember that Hillary Clinton didn't even secure the pledged delegates until June 7th. As they were of 2016, they started looking into this and going through it, and every corner they turned, they were met with a roadblock. Not from members of the Clinton Foundation or sources they were looking into, but from their own superiors in the government, from people like the Deputy Director of the FBI, Andrew McCabe, from people like the Deputy Attorney General, Sally Yates. They were obstructing the forward movement of the field offices, 3 of them, which were looking into the Clinton Foundation alleged corruption, cash for access allegations that were out there. There was a book about it. People read about it. That was even one of the excuses that people in the government tried to say, this is just an open source investigation because you read the book. And they said, no, we have confidential human informants. We have sources. We have reporting, investigative tactics, what we're trained to do. We want to move forward with this. And every corner they turned, it was shut down. And the person who even said, I have to have direct oversight over every single investigative step before you do it, then recused himself days before the election after almost a year and a half of that oversight, making sure he could slow it down and stop it from ever getting anywhere. And that's exactly what happened. Meanwhile, those exact same people were breaking all the rules in the way that they went after American citizens that work for President Trump's election campaign, people that were nominated, put into positions within that administration after the election. The disparity of what we see, how they treated an insider to them and an outsider like President Trump is just shocking, and it's all documented by a DOJ lawyer.
Yep, absolutely. Look, we're going to take calls when we get back. I was hoping to get some calls today, or in this segment, unfortunately, ran out of time. But stay on hold, Luann, if you're on hold, and James, you're on hold as well. You've been on hold for a while, but I will get to you. In the next segment, we're going to have Rick Rennell, and then I'm going to take as many calls as we can. We got 4 lines open right now. So I encourage you right now, if this does anything for you, if it's stirring anything up, or you got any questions or comments, hit us up right now, 1-800-684-3110. Get in line, because I'll take as many calls as I possibly can in the final segment. Next step, we got Rick Rennell. Rick Rennell's been a member of the ACLJ team and member of the Sekulow broadcast team now for many years. He also serves the head of the Kennedy Center. He is a special envoy for President Trump. He was a former director of national intelligence and also an ambassador to Germany, among with other incredible roles he's had throughout the world. Always has great thoughts and feedback. So you don't want to miss Rick joining us in the next segment. Of course, the Kennedy Center had a big moment yesterday unveiling who they're going to have for the Kennedy Center Honors and who that host will be. It's going to be a fun time. We're going to talk about that with Rick coming up. Once again, phone lines are open at 1-800-684-3110. Have your donation doubled today as part of the ACLJ 35 Years of Victory Drive.
A new piece that you put out last night, John, about Comey's media mole told the FBI he shaped the Russia narrative but needed discount to deny leaking intel. All this stems from an investigation by the FBI into classified information that was popping up in the New York Times, Washington Post, Wall Street Journal, and many other places. But what do these documents tell us, John, about James Comey and this relationship he had with Columbia University law professor Daniel Richman?
James Comey brought a friend onto the payroll to be a special PR consultant and to go around the official press office of the FBI, which is also on our tax dollars dime, and trained in how to properly provide information to the news media so that laws aren't broken. And he's having discussions with reporters about classified information. And when he's asked, did you confirm or provide that information, he gives, I think, one of the great non-denial answers in American history. He says, I'm pretty sure I didn't confirm the intelligence, and I'm sure, with a discount, I didn't give him the classified documents. If you need a discount on your truthfulness to make that claim, it's a red flag to the FBI that maybe you haven't told them the whole story. And I think what you get to see now is that James Comey wasn't just trying to do good in the country. He wasn't trying to stand up to a president, all the narratives he's given us on his high and mighty media tours. He was worried about how he was being viewed. And he brings a guy in, and that guy is having conversations with reporters about classified information. He doesn't dispute that. The question is, did he leak it? And the FBI ultimately couldn't tell from his answer whether he did or didn't. And the Justice Department ultimately, like almost all the leak cases of the last decade, no one actually gets punished. It looks like this happened, but we can't prove it.
Welcome back to Sekulow. We are now joined by Rick Grinnell. Rick has been a member of the ACLJ team here and is part of the broadcast team for a number of years. Like I said, always comes at us some very interesting information, inside information that really no one else can have, that no one else can share, because you've been so involved in pretty much everything that's gone on in some form of politics, Washington, D.C., whatever it is, throughout your entire life and career. But of course, I wanted to say thank you and celebrate the fact that yesterday was a big moment for you in the Kennedy Center, as it was unveiled not only the restoration that's going to be going as you've been running the Kennedy Center, but honestly, the list of people who are going to be honored this year at the Kennedy Center as part of this spectacular event that's gone on for many, many years. And this list, I'll say this, a bipartisan list of artists, musicians, people who have been involved in the arts for so many years. And of course, leading the way, my favorite band, the hottest band in the world, Kiss. That's like me and your mom's probably the only thing we'll disagree on. It's my love for Kiss. But they have been a great American legacy story. People that came here with American dream. I mean, Gene Simmons, born in Israel, parents were Holocaust, evacuated from the Holocaust and moved to Israel, born to Israel, moves to New York, learns English, and now you have his band, he and Paul Stanley, another New Yorker, who went through 50 years, went from first-generation Americans to now being honored by the White House, being honored by the Kennedy Center. And then you go down the other people who are on the list. Of course, we go into details on all of them, whether it's Sylvester Stallone or whoever it may be.
I feel like
American
you don't know
icons.
as many details
I don't know
about
as much
the
about
other
them.
slogan.
Let me go through everything. Paul Stanley was a cab driver in New York City. Let's know, Rick, I first just want to say it was a long time coming. The Kennedy Center needed a lot of love, and I'm so thankful that you have been there to champion the arts.
Thanks. First of all, let me just say that from the moment that the words KISS came out of President Trump's mouth, I knew I had to check my phone to see if Logan Sekulow was still alive, because I knew that he was going to have a total meltdown in that moment.
Will even commented, he was like, hey, he knew how to say Ace Frehley right, which was impressive.
Right, exactly. I mean,
it was impressive. My phone blew up too, being like, did you have something to do with this? Like, no, I did not, but I wish I did.
Listen, I have to say that I always knew that you would love it. So you were in my mind. I wish I could have told you beforehand, but I just didn't trust you from immediately exploding with joy. I had to be careful with that. But we're really excited about the Kennedy Center Honors. What we're trying to do at the Kennedy Center is remove politics. You know, I've said this before, it's really worth repeating. I like to say it constantly, but we at the Kennedy Center have not canceled a single show, a single person. All we did was to say that if you're going to perform here at the Kennedy Center, you gotta think about the money situation. So if the combination of not selling enough seats or not getting sponsors is a problem for you, then we're going to hold you accountable to pay the difference, because I can't just keep spending money that doesn't come in, because the Kennedy Center budget has just been atrocious. But we're cleaning it up. We made really tough choices on staff. We've cut back. Our fundraising now is incredible. It's better than it ever has. But we're digging ourselves out of a hole. And so I like to say to people, everyone is welcome. We just got to pay the bills. And so you got to be able to have a program that attracts sponsors or seats or both. And so we're looking to make those changes. And the Kennedy Center Honors, which are Sunday night, December 7th, is a part of that. We've got incredible sponsors that came out. CBS is a sponsor. Delta is a sponsor. Boeing is a sponsor. We have more corporate sponsors coming forward at the Kennedy Center than we ever have. And I think that's because we're just changing it for common sense programming, and we're going for people to get the honors that really deserve it, that haven't had the honor in the past, and that appeal to the broad public without having politics involved. And so even our critics over at the Washington Post and other places have had to admit that what President Trump did yesterday was incredible. And the fact that he's going to be the one that's honoring them, he's the host, he's going to talk about their life, their career. Having the President of the United States give you the award and honor you with speaking about your career, I can't think of a better way as an American to celebrate the greatness of arts and culture at the Kennedy Center.
Absolutely, and it should be that way. And I'm very happy about that. Again, the list is George Strait, Kiss, as we said, Michael Crawford, who's a legendary Tony Award-winning actor, Gloria Gaynor, we all know, a disco legend, and of course, Sylvester Stallone. A lineup, like you said, that most people would recognize the names, would know about it. And again, whether they are part of the tradition of Americana or whether they have been a part of the arts in such a strong way is undeniable. And I love this lineup, Will. But of course, that's not all we're going to talk about. We're not only going to talk about the arts. I could talk about that for the rest of the show, but I know we'd start losing some of our audience, Will.
Well, I mean, I wanted to talk about it as well, but I do think we couldn't have you on today without asking about your favorite antagonist, the senator from your home state, California, Adam Schiff, who has started to get in some hot water with some things that are starting to bubble up to the top now that there's people that are doing real oversight of things in the administration. But one of the main things that came out this week, and we talked about it a couple days ago, was what Just the News released and what Kash Patel had uncovered was FBI 302s that had a whistleblower that was a Democrat from the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence that was concerned about Adam Schiff authorizing leaks of classified information, things he was allowed to see but not declassify himself, and that the entire purpose of that was to seek an indictment against the president. A lot is now coming out about this, and you even tweeted, the Democrats have seen the evidence. They no longer are going to be trusting him. What are your thoughts on just everything that's unfolding? Everything's coming to light. We know that you revealed a lot of things while you were even acting director of national intelligence. But I just want to get your take on this.
Look, back in February of 2020, somebody tweeted this week, and I was pleased to see that somebody had Google and somebody had a memory. But back in February of 2020, we declassified a whole bunch of information. And back then, we proved that Adam Schiff played politics, manipulated the truth, lied to the American people, all for political gain. And we proved that through declassifying documents showing his attacks on Mike Flynn were totally phony and fake. And what should have happened in February of 2020 is Bill Barr, who is the Attorney General, should have immediately taken that, and he should have indicted Adam Schiff. The evidence is there of what Adam Schiff did and the manipulation. I think as a politician, as the chairman of the Intelligence Committee, someone who goes on TV and says, trust me, I know what I'm talking about, but I can't tell you because it's intel. He was lying. We now know he was lying. And I think it's disgraceful that he was allowed to continue without facing consequences. I hope that changes. I think that he still needs to be held to account for it. The evidence is there. And this week, somebody reminded the world that we knew about this in February of 2020. The Biden team didn't do anything about it. And so now it's high time that the Department of Justice go after this. One thing I do know is my friend Kash Patel, who is focused on transparency and is doing a great job, is someone who understands all of the manipulation of Russiagate. And so I hope that Kash as well is looking at the evidence and talking to the Department of Justice, because it's the Department of Justice that has to file the indictments, not the FBI. And I believe that it's high time that Adam Schiff face these consequences. The evidence is there for anyone to look at. Transparency is not political. We just uncovered the truth, and we now know that Adam Schiff completely was lying and manipulating and utilizing the intelligence to go after a person who was about to become the national security advisor for the United States of America. It's really disgraceful what he did.
That's right, Rick. We only have about a minute and a half here, so I just wanted to say again, thank you for all the work you've been doing here at the ACLJ as well, as we are celebrating 35 years right now, 35 years of victory, and we move forward for another 35 years. Just want to give you a second to just say thank you to you for being part of this team for a number of years, lending your voice and your message, because there are very few people that have the insight you have from as inside as you do. And know that we really, really appreciate it. You've been a huge part of growing this broadcast, and I want to thank you for that.
Well, thank you. I am so proud to be a part of the ACLJ family because we do good work. I say this often, but we don't just talk about it. We have a team of lawyers, we have offices, and we do this work to fight against government lack of transparency, against manipulation by politicians, and just the outrages that we see in our society. And we couldn't do it without our partners. And so I hope people believe in the mission. I hope that they will reach out and join us, contribute, knowing that we're not just talking about these problems, but we have a whole team of people that have to be paid that are on the front lines challenging the system and really making a difference.
All right, thank you, Rick, so much. When we get back, we're going to hear from now the most important voice in the room, and that's you. So give us a call at 1-800-684-3110. Get in line. We're going to take as many calls as we can. Coming right up.
For 35 years as Chief Counsel of the American Center for Law and Justice, I've been blessed to be part of numerous monumental victories in defense of life, religious liberty, and our Constitution. I filed countless briefs, argued numerous cases, and repeatedly stood before the U.S. Supreme Court. And thanks to the faithful support of our ACLJ members and champions, we've had the resources to fight these legal battles and defend faith and freedom. That support has been a great blessing, making these fights possible. You can only imagine how fulfilling it was after more than 35 years battling the taxpayer-funded abortion industry to see the U.S. Supreme Court finally overturn Roe v. Wade, undoing a grave injustice in our nation's history. And after a lifetime of advocacy, I was there the day President Trump opened the U.S. Embassy in Jerusalem, affirming our unshakable support for our ally Israel. Together, we've been on the front lines winning monumental cases at the U.S. Supreme Court, from protecting the rights of churches to meet in schools to upholding the right of students to pray at those schools and hold Bible clubs. We've also had monumental impacts across the globe, helping secure the freedom of numerous pastors like Pastor Andrew Brunson, who in just 30 hours went from being locked in a Turkish prison to standing in the Oval Office praying for President Trump. But these victories are only a generation away from being undone. The radical left and enemies of freedom around the world never stop fighting against us. At the ACLJ, we are building on this legacy of victory over the past 35 years as we expand our efforts. That's why we've launched our 35 Years of Victory Drive. We need the resources to protect the victories of the past, but also to secure the new victories for the future. Donate today at aclj.org/35 and have your gift double today. And if you're able, become an ACLJ champion and help make victories possible every single month.
Last segment of the day, it flew by today. We got two lines open at 1-800-684-3110 if you want to call in. Some of you have been on hold for a long time. All of you are watching on YouTube, which is pretty cool. I like to see that. I like to see when new media starts shifting and we get people to call in who are just watching online. Luann's calling from Florida, online too. Luann, thank you for holding so long. You're on the air.
Hi, how are you?
Great.
All right, my question is this. With all this corruption to be so prevalent in our government, it had to go back a bit. Now, as far as the Clintons go, they've gotten away with it for so long. But I read an article yesterday, according to, our laws, the president, he has presidential immunity. But in the article I read, Barack Hussein Obama may not have presidential immunity because he was still involved after our president, President Trump, was sworn in 2017. According to this article, President Obama was still involved in this witch hunt on President Trump.
Look, we've seen that. We've seen some of that play out. We've seen some of the information. So go ahead, Luann.
I'm sorry. I'm curious as to where are these indictments? Because growing up in the Bronx, the saying was you can indict a ham sandwich. Well, why aren't these ham sandwiches getting indicted? Where are the indictments from our Department of Justice?
A lot to unpack there, Will. So let's break it down for a little bit, though. But we know that Barack Obama was at least involved in some ways or the Obama, you'd say, organization.
Or the individuals that we know of. Luann, to that point, yes, it is accurate that if President Obama, while he was former president, was doing things that were criminal post his presidency, that presidential immunity doesn't extend to that in that way.
And we're just getting kind of clarity on presidential immunity.
Right,
kind of where
it's kind of new. But also to that fact where the indictments, I think we know that there's a grand jury investigation, that they are gathering the materials to present to the grand jury to seek indictments. We don't know against which people. We know where the investigations were, at least reportedly. But I genuinely do believe we will see indictments brought against individuals based off the movement of the DOJ. I also, yes, you can indict a ham sandwich, but you can't necessarily convict a ham sandwich. So the other part of that, Luann, is that if you want the Department of Justice to do this correctly, if you want them to get indictments that turn into convictions, they have to have the facts on their side. They have to have the case laid out. This is a new team. They need to be able to do this right. And I think the faith in the system demands that they do it right. Because if it is sloppily done, if it doesn't yield justice in any way, and you still have to have faith in the justice system to get to a conviction, because it is set up that you're innocent until proven guilty by a jury of your peers. So we have to keep that all in mind. We can see all the evidence. We can hope it leads down the road to justice, but we still have to let it play out because we believe in the rule of law, and we believe that our system, while every system has flaws in it, we believe that we have the best system on earth, and we need to protect that.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, if you were to convict a ham sandwich, if all of your indictments turned into convictions, what would that, I got to think of what it would be. What could you actually convict?
I was trying to come up with a really funny pun.
Yeah, I can't come up with it
on the fly, but...
and you said sloppy, I thought, another sandwich.
Sloppy Joe.
Sloppy Joe Biden.
Oh, no.
Why did he call that's what he called him, right? Is it President Trump? That was his nickname?
He was Sleepy Joe Logan.
Oh, it's Sleepy Joe. Thought it was Sloppy Joe. That's what
just makes you hungry.
That's what people call me
lunchtime.
in the chat. They're like, put on a jacket.
Yeah.
Let's go to James, who's calling in, I think, Arkansas, on line one, who is in YouTube. Or he's in YouTube. He's on YouTube watching. James, go ahead.
Man, you guys I lost track of what we was talking about. I never had an opinion about abortion, but then I listened to you guys, so now I got a question.
Go ahead.
Can we abort the mother and keep the baby?
James, I understand what you are maybe saying. I'm glad you waited on hold for 37 minutes for that, but I understand that the idea of you never thought you'd have to do this. There are a lot of conversations where you get concerned about that. We're not someone here to even shame women on here that even have had abortions. We know that is a very tough decision. We know that no one takes it lightly, and we also know that it's something that people deal with in a very intense way, and it sticks with them. That being said, we also fight for the pro-life pregnancy resource centers, those incredible centers that are there for the mothers, for expectant mothers who need that guidance and that help, that aren't just guided into one choice. They're actually guided into options, and that option could be adoption. That option could be childcare. A lot of them provide a lot of necessities, whether that's food, whether that's formula, whether that's clothing and diapers. That's why we fight for those people. So I know you may have been saying that sarcastically, but I don't take it that way. Know that is something we really stand up for. It's not only just for the children and for make sure that children not only born, but are born and thrive, but also make sure these mothers also have the ability to thrive or to make the best decisions for their family. So I appreciate you calling in because it gave me the option to talk about it. Let's go to Roger, who's calling in Alaska. Is that right?
That's Alabama. Logan.
Sorry, the L and the K. They got
You're only thinking about the Alaska Summit tomorrow.
That's what it was. And the L and the K, they're right next to each other on the keyboard.
Right.
I like you look down just to make sure I was right.
No, I mean,
some
I
of
knew
us
you
QWERTY.
were right.
Some of us QWERTY. Go ahead. Go ahead, Roger. You're on the air.
Got a couple of questions that have been bothering me. When I went to school, I had to take 2 Constitution tests. If I didn't pass them, I couldn't graduate. Some of the things I've seen them do, manipulating the law, one of them that they banged into our head was no past pro tempore laws. Now, I've watched them twist and manipulate that against Trump and charge him for things in the past and try to convict him of it like the law was back there, but it wasn't. And then they think that they are protected, these people, and they cannot be prosecuted. And there's an old expression down here in Artville, Alabama. If you know Uncle Jimmy Joe Bob, you ain't going to get into trouble. Is this how this is actually going to go down? And why did not the burnout bags get burnt?
Well, as we know, Alabama, known for not having any corruption in their
in their law enforcement,
in the law enforcement or their government. We know no problems in there. But Roger, to go to your point, we only got 2 minutes left. To go to your point, when it comes to all of these situations and the feet dragging that happens and the delays in this, some of it's inevitable. And when it comes to some of these are new laws, you got to think presidential immunity is something that's brand new. There was something that just got passed. And now President Trump is saying, yeah, Barack Obama probably should be thanking me because I was able to do that, knowing that there's some of these Supreme Court ruling. Right. So, yeah, some of it actually would go back in time, if you will. But it just depends on the law.
Well, and to Roger's point about Jimmy Joe Bob, the Clintons may have not known him, but it did seem that there was.
What if this is Roger Clinton calling?
Oh, that'd be incredible. I don't think it is, but you look at what you see in this timeline. You see that Andrew McCabe was putting roadblocks at every step for an investigation. You see Sally Yates saying, "Shut it down." That expression rings true in many ways when you read this timeline.
All right, thank you, Roger, for calling. Look, we got 1 minute left. In that 1 minute, I'm going to tell you, this is the time. This is the best time. This is the time of your life to donate to the ACLJ right now. I want you to scan the QR code that's about to pop up on your screen. If you're watching, if you're not, just go to aclj.org. That's aclj.org. Celebrating 35 years of victory. We have been focusing on our wins so we can show you what we can do. That we have been at this for 35 years, and we are halfway through this 35 years of victory drive. And we want you to be part of the team as well. Without your generosity, without your support, none of this happens without you. So if you can give today and your donations are doubled, that means there's another ACLJ member or champion, that's someone that gives on a monthly recurring basis, ready to double the impact of your donation, whether it's your first-time donation or whatever it may be during this month. So do it right now at aclj.org. I want to encourage everyone who's watching on YouTube to subscribe. If you're brand new or you just haven't done it, it's free, it's easy, it helps us out a lot. Join the over 500,000 people that have done that today. Go right now, click subscribe. Talk to you tomorrow.